episode 1 of Rise and Red, the podcast, the official SFU hockey podcast. My name is Nick Toren, play-by-play announcer for SFU hockey. You have Mark Coletta, the head coach of SFU hockey, and Jake Frederick, our producer and content specialist for SFU hockey.
How you doing, Nick?
Not bad, not bad. So tell us a little about yourselves.
Well, born and raised in Burnaby, British Columbia. Staying home, coaching the SFU men's hockey program for the last, I would say, 14 years. I played over at Plattsburgh State in the NCAA and got into coaching after that was done. Tried my hand at the professional game and lasted a little bit, but got into coaching, found a love for it, and brought me through a bunch of different leagues, junior leagues, minor hockey, back at my roots with the Burnaby Winter Club, and then to the junior A leagues, and then worked with BC Hockey for a bunch of years. And now with SFU and I think my 14th. I think my daughter was born my first year, maybe my second year. So it's been a long time, but definitely eventful.
Good way to keep your, how long you've been coaching, just the age of your daughter. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, easy to remember.
Jake, you want to tell us a bit about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Jake. This is my 5th year with SFU hockey. It started off as reaching out to Chris saying, hey, I want to do some video for you guys. And within a few months, I was running all the socials for the team and then a little bit of the BCIHL accounts as well. You know, I've been in control of the socials, so video, photo, graphics, all that kind of stuff. That's been mostly me, except for last year. I spent the year with the Vancouver Canucks doing social with them. And I'm kind of doing this remotely for my 5th year with SFU hockey.
We love that. And you made a good job here. It's about 9 years for me with SFU hockey and play-by-play and broadcaster, and that's all I do for a living, really.
Yeah, you do a good job, Nick. You do a good job.
Basically, what this podcast is going to be about is we're going to recap SFU games, where they played, who they played, what the experiences were like, and then we'll look ahead to upcoming matchups that they're going to have, and then we might talk a little extracurriculars of life and sport. Let's start off, obviously, just coming off last week or 2 weeks ago at this point, probably the biggest game in program history, the SVU against the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, pretty cool experience. We took our lumps, but I think the experience itself, being in the same arena as the Michigan Wolverines and even Colorado College, I think SFU hockey at that level is definitely a step in the right direction. Our guys' first-hand knowledge now of what it's like to play at that level. We had people on the road trip that came and saw what it's like to be at that level off the ice as well, and all the things that go into a Division I program at the highest level. I mean, we saw where the bar is, and that's pretty cool to see right up close and personal. You know, you can see it on TV, and you've heard about the Michigan lore forever. Football, basketball, any sport, but the campus is awesome. It's first class. The people there, first class. Everything's clean. Everything's branded. I mean, if you're on campus, you're wearing something maize and blue, and if you're not, you know you don't belong. So, I think that just resonates with the student athletes as well, and it's a real cool experience. Our guys were definitely awestruck for the first 2 periods, hence the little bit of a beating we took, and the 8-1 scoreline. But I think, you know, if we fast forward to the following week when we went to Colorado, we learned a lot right away and held our own. So, Yost Arena is all history, all encompassing of what it's like to be in a college hockey arena. The band was there 3 hours before. You know, the student section was rocking. It's a cool place to play college hockey.
I'm a big proponent of goal songs. Just get rid of them. Just have brass bands play goal songs. I just think it's fantastic. I love it in college hockey. I just want to point out the 8-1 scoreline.
Yeah.
Me and Jake were talking about this, about the game and what's a good game going to look like for SFU hockey. We were saying even 8-1 isn't necessarily a bad scoreline for SFU. This is Michigan. They're a top 10 team in NCAA, and we are not in remote opportunity of that. But we're like 8-1. That's not a bad back up. We thought that would be a good scoreline. Well, I don't know. Maybe we called it, I suppose, because maybe we said it too many times. Well, like Beetlejuice, because we said it a bunch. And
yeah, I mean, you know what, Nick? It's like, you know, I talked to a lot of friends. I had a couple of my Plattsburgh former teammates come up and make the trip to watch. We had some other family and friends there. I think some people at home watched. You know, of course, you're always going to be up against it playing these kinds of teams. You're not recruiting at that level. there's an element of you don't play at that level every day. So you're not into it. I mean, this is, Jimmy Camazola and us and myself and Jason Krog spoke the other week, and our freshman class know no better. They don't know the competitive level from the BCI, which we played in before, to what they're playing now. So those guys just know the direct and aggressiveness of NCAA hockey, where our returning guys are finding it hard to get out of those bad habits you would have picked up at the BCI level. And that's just fact. So, the 8-1 scoreline is what it is. There's fully funded varsity teams from Canada at the U Sport level losing 10-0 and 6-0. So I thought we did what we had to do. The losing part sucks, and you take it with you and you learn from it. Just to say anybody was happy or not mad when we lose, you don't talk for a couple hours after a loss. Doesn't matter if it's preseason or a playoff game. That's the way I look at it. And if you don't feel that, shame or feeling after you lose a game, then you're not in it for the right reasons, in my opinion. So, there's no silver lining there, except the fact that growth mindset. What do we do after that? So hopefully the Colorado game was indicative of that, and 5-3 with an empty netter, make it 6-3, and we're in that game a little bit. And so, yeah, you're right. It is what it is.
Well, who were some of the players that impressed you? Obviously, 8-1 scoreline. It's kind of hard to look at players that might have actually impressed behind the scenes, if you look between the lines. Who were some of the SFU players that you were impressed with and or stepped up when you maybe didn't expect it to?
Well, I think it's one of those things where we have some guys that from playing wise, they played at the D1 level, so they've got some experience. And obviously Nick Wicks played well. Tristan Cross played well. Colby Matthews, being a 4-year guy at RIT in the net before the concussion, played stellar. And obviously Henderson coming in halfway through the first, having to take the barrage of action cold from the bench. He was unbelievable as well. I thought there was a lot of good performances in the sense that, they did some things to prove themselves at that level. I think the compete level could have been a bit higher. I think we were awestruck again by the crowd. I mean, the ice is frozen in Michigan, just like it's frozen here in Burnaby. So I don't use that as an excuse, and I don't let my players use it either. I mean, who gives a shit that there's a band in the crowd and fans are jumping up and down? You should be motivated to play. So I thought our compete level and just that energy level wasn't the best all round, but I thought we grew from that. And 6 days later, we actually were in a game against Colorado College.
I just wanted to touch on the experience. I mean, not everybody gets to go to Michigan, whether it's as a student or as a student athlete. What's the campus like? What's the arena like? These are huge programs, and you see it all the time on TV and the big budget programs. And what's it like to be at one of those universities everybody knows the University of Michigan. So what was it like at the experience, at the campus, at the arena, and everywhere in between?
Well, like I said from the outset, the branding issue and the way the campus is manicured, it's ridiculous. Like, that's something my dad would do in his backyard. I mean, the grass is perfectly cut. Everything's clean. There's no garbage anywhere. All the buildings are brick and old and refurbished. They don't tear down many things. It's just repurposed. The old hockey rink is now the gymnastics area. The Yost is the old basketball arena that was retrofitted and redone in 2012, I believe. Everything is clean. I mean, the facilities they have is second to none. I mean, the tour we went on, we saw the basketball facility, the 3 football facilities, including the big house. Yost is tremendous. The softball stadium and the baseball stadiums are second to none. So yeah, that experience it's cool to see. It makes you want to be at that level, whether it's from a coaching perspective or just be in that environment, because that's, if the Americans do one thing right, it's university athletics, and there's no doubt about it. That's full stop. They're the top at that. A cool little tidbit was Red Berenson came down to the dressing room area and introduced himself to Jimmy and I. And, such a nice person, didn't have to do that. A legend of the college hockey game, supported what we're doing, really, really spoke a little bit about Vancouver and Simon Fraser, which he was knowledgeable about. And again, having him come down to chat with us was awesome. So just first class all around. I mean, everything they do is top level.
It looks like it on TV, but it's interesting to hear about that. So you played this game. What were some of the takeaways you took from this game moving into the Colorado College game? What did you use from that game to move forward ahead and prepare your team for the next game?
The pace of play, Nick, is just it's crazy. We've done the NCAA games over the years. A couple Alaska trips and a bunch of years ago, Bowling Green and Northeastern and all this good stuff, Arizona State. But when you're not playing at that level all the time, you come back to where you're most all your games are played. So right off the bat, you see the pace of play and the way the guys move at that level. It's not like they're overly big. They're not overly aggressive. It's, they have NHL drafted guys on the team. They just move so well. They think the game a little quicker. And when you're in that environment, you're forced to do it. And so the takeaway for us was try to practice and get into modes where we're pushing the pace so that we're ready for that kind of stuff. And the play without the puck is really important too at this level, is just knowing where guys are, filling lanes. And Michigan just did a great job of finding bodies and sticking to their structure. The one thing I noticed is their defensemen move so well. They shimmy off that blue line or they dive in, and our wingers were just, which way did he go? Which way did who go? Kind of thing, the line from Top Gun. And so we did it. We had to make sure we did a better job of that. Just don't put your head down and run at a guy because he's just going to juke you and you're screwed, right? So that combined with just the way they compete, they fight through checks, and we focused on that. We harped on it. It's a tough week of practice after an 8-1 loss, and guys got to be accountable for that.
Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of mentioned, I mean, a lot of these Michigan players, maybe not all of them are fighting for NHL contracts or their draft stock, but their caliber is right there to maybe be seen enough to make an NHL contract. And SFU just doesn't have that yet, which is interesting. Okay, but we're at the Colorado College game. Like you mentioned, 6-3, really not that bad when you look at it, coming off the 8-1 loss. Colorado College, maybe not the highest ranked team in the world, but putting a 3 spot on and only allowing 5, count one extra, or 6, that's not bad.
Yeah, we traded a lot of shots and grade A chances in the first period. After the first 2 or 3 shifts, we kind of eased into the game. And I think Parkey had a breakaway. I think we had a 2-on-1. It could have easily been 1-0, 2-0 us, and we were trading chances back and forth. So, it's one of those games where the goals we let up weren't the best. And I think if we figure out how to eliminate those chances, we're going to be in better position to win games like that. But yeah, I mean, the scoreline is definitely, maybe a little bit better, but a loss is a loss. And again, you watch the tape when you get back and you see the goals you give up, and you're like, guys, that shit can't happen. You're playing an NCAA game. You take a shift off, it's in the back of your net. So you that consistency thing was the next part of our learning and growth mindset is, okay, now we figured out that we got to compete every shift, but we got to do it every shift, not just 1 or 2. But yeah, different element, different game, a lot more positives in this one.
Tell us about the town. I mean, if you don't know where Colorado College is, it's in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So what was the Robson Arena like? What's the campus like? This is not the most well-known university, especially not in Colorado, especially with Deion Sanders over there. So what was it like at that arena and that lifts out? And you don't have to compare it to Michigan. I'm sure you will, but
yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's small town, or not small town, big area. Colorado Springs is really spread out. Air Force is just up the road. Definitely a military town. The campus at Colorado College, very, very nice and small. Reminds me of a prep school in the Northeast United States. I had the fortunate luck to go to Kimball Union up in New Hampshire when I was 17, 18. And it reminded me of that. I think there's only 2,000 students. It's Division I men's hockey, Division I women's soccer, and everything else Division III. Pretty expensive school to go to, so really small. I would imagine you get a good academic education there with the class sizes being more of a one-on-one atmosphere. But just the rink itself is an NHL rink. It's a 3-year-old facility. The ice is tremendous. It's like you're skating at Rogers. It's awesome. The facility itself has their weight and training room in it. The video room, their athletic room's got everything you need. I mean, when we go to these schools, we're treated first class. Like, we have our own, our trainer can sharpen skates at his own machine. We have everything at our disposal as you would at home, because everything's given to you. Laundry's done. the dressing room's there. You leave your stuff. You don't have to cart it on a bus on and off and back to the hotel. But yeah, Colorado Springs, cool spot. Definitely a good play. I mean, they were real good in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think there were some good players that came out of there, former Hobie Baker winners, and they were real good. I think Doug Lidster is a Vancouver Canuck back in the day, went to Colorado College. So yeah, I think they're definitely making their way back to where they need to be.
All right, Mark. So now you've completed this game at 6-3. Now we're heading into next week. What are your takeaways from this game in a look ahead to Adrian University and Lake State?
Well, it's a challenging feat, which we're trying to do and get into, back-to-backs now. So it's not a one game and done. So we got to go to Adrian College. They were in the championship game of Division III Final Four last year, and then Lake State, another good, solid D1 program that's, we're gonna have to work hard. It's not gonna be easy, but we have some video on both teams, and we'll have to make adjustments both ways.
What are you looking forward to this Adrian team? What kind of a team do they have? What are you preparing for them?
Well, I think they're gonna be, they're gonna be hungry. They're just starting their season now at the D3 level. They're gonna be probably fast and tenacious. I know a little bit about the D3 market, and they're going to be chomping at the bit to play a team that is trying to go D1, a Canadian team coming in, and so they'll be ready to play and prove themselves. And we're going to have to meet the emotion. I know Bobby Emery at Plattsburgh always said college hockey is a game of emotion, and you got to be able to meet the other team's emotion, or you're going to fall flat on your face.
Okay, and Lake State, I mean, going from D3 to D1, some might think that's a bit of a drop off. I feel like in hockey it really isn't. There are a lot of D3 teams that could be D1 and vice versa. So looking ahead to Lake State, what are you looking for in that game?
Yeah, they're going to be an older, stronger, bigger team. We have some video from their Michigan State game last week, so we'll have to make sure we're fine tuning that. Yeah, they definitely have some players. I have a lot of BCHL players that our guys will be familiar with. So, it's a long road trip up in the morning of Saturday to after a Friday night game. So our guys will have to be prepared, and not like they haven't been used to riding a bus for 4 or 5 hours before a game. So, we'll make the adjustments we have to them. I would imagine they'll be a little more heavy on the puck and play more of a similar style to Colorado College.
And what do you think the SFU has to do to maybe steal a game here? I mean, they've beaten an NCAA Division I opponent team. They did it last year against Alaska Anchorage. What does this team need to do to maybe squeak out a win here in this weekend?
Like I said, it's all about mobility and being able to move around the ice. The two biggest takeaways I've taken away right now, and I chatted again with Jim about it, and actually another friend that coaches my son team, Zach Hamill, was a former NHLer and played a lot of years of hockey. The two biggest takeaways are the mobility, not necessarily the speed up and down the ice, but just being able to get to loose pucks in short areas and being able to move in a way that they can get around the ice really nice and quick, especially in tight spots as well. But mobility and the brain, the hockey sense at this next level is key. So those two things our guys are going to have to really sharpen up before we get out there, and then overall compete. If you're not working hard and you're not competing, which is the one thing you could control in an environment, and if you can't come ready to play and you're not going to work hard, then you've already lost the game. Doesn't X's and O's are in my opinion, they are what they are. We're not reinventing the game here. There's different systems, and they've been recycled by coaches and then tweaked and added to. But if you look at the game's still played hard, and you have to be able to skate and play at that level. I think is the most important thing.
Perfect. Well, I think we're all really excited to see how this team's going to do this year. But
yeah, last thing, is that a Ryan Smith jersey behind Jake there? Is that what I'm seeing?
I believe it's the Mechanical Oil Ryan Smith jersey.
Yes, it is, and it is.
Oh, that's an ugly jersey, if you ask me. Not Ryan Smith being ugly. The jersey itself.
Really? I think the Mechanical Oil is the best Oilers jersey they've ever done.
I love it.
It's a great jersey. I will defend that.
The Nike 80s jersey when Edmonton was winning cups is the best one.
That's one that I am still looking at getting if I can find one. I have the reverse retro from last year, which is just the same as this one here with the orange drop. And I still have a hard time with like the orange oil drop in the middle, but
yeah, That's that. It's clean, but yeah.
Yeah, but yes, it is a signed Todd McFarlane era Ryan Smith jersey.
Maybe that's a topic for our next episode. Best jersey, any sport.
I will. Wow, I have days to talk about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like it.
Okay, but that was almost a perfect segue into dump and change, where Mark gives opinions about things, and I will try to either fight him or maybe agree with him. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, the dump and change segment, I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be a big one.
I think it's going to be fun, but I guess we're going to have different topics on dump and change. But today is moving from minor hockey into junior hockey, different routes players can take, the different leagues they can go into, and maybe pros and cons about either or. But I guess, Mark, you probably have opinions on this. Let's hear them.
Yeah, I mean, I think from an educational piece, I think it's really important that parents, of kids, and I think this is for, many sports, wanting their kids or kids wanting to play at the next level. And so when you go through youth sports or minor hockey for the sake of the show being a hockey focused show, the right questions are where am I getting the right development? Where's my kid going to be able to grow and develop? And I think number one, and I guess, it's a sticky situation because it's a race, and it shouldn't be. Parents are in a race to get their kids to the next level or to fast track them to a junior team or what have you. So, that would be my number one piece of advice for parents is if your kid isn't playing junior at 16, 17, or he's not playing academy hockey at 15, don't sweat it. I mean, half of these young men haven't hit puberty yet. They're not at a level where they can get and excel to an elite level. Kids will grow at different ages. You can have a 10, 12-year-old kid who's just superior, but by the time they're 15, everybody's caught them. So I think parents, if they are listening, and as a former player at a pretty crazy hockey environment growing up at the Burnie Winter Club, and then going through the junior ranks and the prep school ranks and getting to where I got to, I mean, obviously not the NHL level, but and then going back and coaching and having a kid in today's day and age in hockey, I think it is very important that you let the kids develop. The second part to that is finding the right people to develop them. Minor hockey's changed so much over the last handful of years, and that's a debate in itself with what league is great to play in or not. I'll just leave it at, if you have the right coaching and the right development, you stand a better chance of getting to where you want to get to. Throwing money just for the sake of throwing money isn't going to help your child out. So finding the right people. If we're just thinking hockey now, getting into my point about mobility, getting them to be able to skate at a young age is probably the most important. The stick skills and all that stuff is going to help itself out, and you can work on that off the ice. But there's no substitute for skating. I played soccer for many years. I was fortunate enough to play. My first year at Plattsburgh, I played both, believe it or not. Not sure how they found out I played soccer, but I did, and I can speak to both sports. I think soccer is a different element, a different style, a different conditioning. There's no substitute. You can't ride a bike. You can't go jogging to replicate what that 1 minute shift looks like. There's just zero. And so you have to be able to skate. And so if you don't learn that at 10, 11, and 12 and find the right people to do that, then you have no chance from going from minor hockey to junior. The second thing I would say, or third thing I would say is, parents got to stay out of their kids' way and let the coaches coach, especially if you got the right coaches. And the one thing I know for fact that's changed over the last 30 years, and I have no problem saying it, is if you get cut from a team in today, 2023, and probably the last 10 years, it wasn't like you had to work hard to make the team the following year. When we grew up, and I'm not going to use I walked to school uphill both ways bullshit line, because it's just garbage. But when we grew up, and probably even as fast as the last 10, 20 years, you got cut from a team, you played on the second team and worked your way, worked harder, mom and dad got your development, and you got to the next level, hopefully the next year. Now you get cut from a team and you just go to another team at the same level. Or you don't like the coach or you don't like the team there, you go to another team. There's no risk reward. There's no, I got to work harder to get to a level. So kids are just playing on teams, whether they're academy teams or or major midget teams or major bantam teams and just leave one association to go play on a AAA team over there. Well, you didn't make that team. You just went over there to play because you got cut from this team. So I think that's a big problem, because when we see them after 3 or 4 years of junior, that whole hunger to be, and I'm not saying all kids, that hunger, that energy that you play with to fight for a spot in the lineup is not there. You're a freshman. You don't get power play time. You don't get penalty kill time. You're a fourth line guy, using hockey terms. That's how it works. But they hadn't been used to that, because they would just go play for another team when they were 15, 16. And then when they got to junior, if they didn't like it, they'd ask for a trade. When you get to college, there is no trade. You don't get to go to the coach and say, I want to trade. So I think that's part of the problem with just youth sports in general a little bit. But, making that jump from minor hockey to junior hockey, you really got to play your cards right. And of course, there has to be an innate ability of the kid himself wanting to play. Is he out in the backyard firing pucks? Is he asking mom and dad to go to the rink or extra ice? If that child doesn't have that, and we've all heard the stories of Bedard, obviously, most recently, and I can go back to when I was a kid at the Winter Club. Paul Correa would be on the ice at 6 a.m. on Sundays. His mom would bring him to the rink, and I played with Steve on the younger team, and there would be a bunch of guys out there, my brother-in-law included, he's a coach of Langley Rivermen in the BCHL, but you can ask Bert, you can ask a lot of guys locally. Paul Correa was there every morning. There's a reason why he made what he did. And if kids don't have that innate ability to do that, you can't force that as a parent. And part of that is the environment they've grown up in the last 4 or 5 years, right? With tech really taking a toll on kids, I think. And, we try to limit tech on our kids at home, but it's a tough thing to do. That's for sure.
Fair enough. I can say I have played with Steve Correa as well.
Yes. Good guy.
It was curling.
Okay.
I played with Steve Correa. Fun fact.
Well, I'll say this: curling's a tough sport. You might watch it on TV, the Brier or the Scotty Tournament of Hearts on TSN, I believe.
Yes.
It's a tough sport. It's not easy. And you got to yell. You got to be yelling. So that's one common thing from coaching, is you're always yelling, and on the ice, on the pebbled ice, you got to yell as well.
Yeah.
My only claim to fame is practicing once with Brandon Hagel.
Hey, he's pretty good.
He's very good.
Got a couple of rings, doesn't he? Tampa Bay.
No, he came in after.
Oh, he's after the rings.
He's after. He's one of the 6 guys on that team that doesn't have one.
Rip.
Well, that's not. They should get him one. They should just get him one. Since he played with you, on the ice, you should get him one.
Honestly.
Yeah, no, the jump from minor hockey to junior, it's not as easy as people think. And that's the other thing.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this, because major junior versus junior A and B is very different things. I talked to a guy who made it to the NHL once. I mean, unsigned draft free agent person. And I asked him, I'm like, what made you go to junior as opposed to going the college route? And he said, I was a first round pick in junior. Why wouldn't you go? If I wasn't, I probably would have gone the college route. So you work at a college. So I don't know if you have bias, but maybe take the bias away if you can. And, what's the difference if you're going to major junior, which is the Canadian Hockey League, or, the junior A, B, or, the U.S. National Development type of thing?
Well, I'll tread lightly here, so I don't get myself in a pickle and then maybe close doors on potential jobs somewhere else one day.
Okay.
But the bottom line is there's no wrong or right choice when you're at that level and you're at the capabilities of making a junior, the jump from junior to go to the WHL or the NCAA. They're both good options. It's all about the kid and what their trajectory is. So, the stigma of, I guess I could say this, the stigma of, well, if you don't play 80 games in the WHL or major junior, NCAA doesn't play that many games. So, that's the biggest difference. And I think that stigma's gone. The environment of the NCAA, they've ramped up to close to 40 games. The training facilities they have, the off-ice training they get prepares those kids for NHL life. So that one I don't buy. But, I mean, in Connor Bedard's case, or, when McDavid was going through, he's a surefire first-round pick. I mean, education isn't on his radar. You go to the OHL, and you're getting drafted the following year, or 2 or 3 years, and you know you're at the world junior level, you're going where I think that whole stigma of it doesn't prepare you for the NHL. I think that's gone. I really do. But if you're an academic and you need some time to develop and you want the school experience and you're an undersized defenseman and you're going to get extra ice time, you have a couple years to develop and you're playing against older guys, the college route might be the way to go. The WHL, OHL, I believe, is more suited for an NHL style of game. You watch it on TV. If you're at the arena, very take the puck back, D to D, whereas the college game is just a bunch of animals going 100 miles an hour. And, it's an older game. And that's why you see a lot of free agent signings after the kid's senior year and they make the jump. They're 23 years old. So they're jumping to the NHL, being able to compete with men. Whereas, making that jump from junior as an 18-year-old, how many 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds do you see make that jump? Obviously, the exceptional guys with exceptional status, they don't grow on trees, and they're not. The next Bedard coming out of this area, who knows when he's going to be? The next McDavid coming out of Newmarket. Some of my friends in Newmarket would beg to disagree. They probably think they're still good enough to be there, but maybe we'll have one of those guys on the show one day. But what I'm saying is, I think there's no wrong or right decision. I think what happens is when you get pushed one way or the other without getting informed, I think that's the part. I think that's where parents get hoodwinked. So my advice would be, parents, do all your homework, do your research before you sign that contract to go play major junior, or do your research before you sign a letter of intent to go to a school. Because with the portal now, the NCAA is not a sure thing either. There's kids moving all the time. So all of a sudden you're committed to go somewhere and that school decides to bring in 4 seniors from North Dakota and Michigan. Well, if they're bringing in guys like that, you might not be playing your first year or two. So again, I think the waters have changed with regards to what's better, what's not better. I would just say this: make an informed decision and make sure you get everything you need to get to before you make that decision home.
Lots of good players have come out of college. I mean, I think you can say the same about both. There's lots of good players, and whatever's
well,
that's it.
That's the thing, Nick. I think it's like, when you look at what's better or what's worse, I think that's just you're just trying to play into your own narrative of what you believe. And in a game, in a day and age now where there's family advisors at 14 and there's advisors and agents on these kids and their families to sign here and to sign there. I've had a lot of friends, family friends of ours that have kids at 15, 16 now, and they've called me and I said, well, you're paying an advisor or an agent. What is he doing for you? Like, why are you asking me these questions? And because I'm going to give them the right answer. There's no sugarcoating when they ask me where they should go or what's right for their particular kid. Like, it's honesty. You got to be honest. I think we spend too much time lying to kids in any sport or people in general that we don't even know what the truth is anymore. So I think you have to give the right answer to these kids. And I think these advisors and agents, in most cases, they're good people. They want to find a spot for this kid to get them there right away. That's money in their pocket or, eventually. And they're taking a chance. Maybe that kid gets drafted. Now he's under his agency and away they go. I mean, I get it. It's a business. I just think parents got to be way more informed and make decisions uninformed and not just be, blowing in the wind and going this way and that way because that's what so-and-so did. Everybody's different. Every situation's different. And I just think the keeping up with the Joneses mentality in hockey is here. Way here. My kid isn't here. Oh, I got to do this or I got to do that. And it's nuts. And I'll no problem standing on that soapbox either. It's crazy.
Honesty is the best policy is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. You take the page out of Simon Cowell. That's what I like to think. He's brutally honest on a TV show. Doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or 60 years old. If you can't do what you said you were going to do, he'll put you in your place. And I think I look back at my experiences and now the way I'm coaching. We're coaching 22, 21, 24-year-old guys that are getting a great education at SFU. Well, when they go into the real world, there is no pat on the back, and I think part of our job as coaching is not only being teachers, but preparing them for the next part. If they go play professionally and get to the NHL, good on them. Awesome. But 99.9 won't. And if we don't do our job to make sure they know what's going on, then they get into a rut. And, you see it with a lot of hockey players, maybe even myself, a couple years after college hockey and that little bit of professional I tried to play. I mean, those 2 years sucked. I didn't know what to do. Do I use my degree? Do I not use my degree? Do I go work? Do I not work? Do I get into try and go back and play? And if you don't prepare those guys for that next step, I failed them, and that's part of coaching.
Well, it seemed to work out for you in the end. And anyway, I think it's a good place. It's episode 1 of Rise and Red, the official SFU hockey podcast. And I'd like to say that was a pretty good first episode, wouldn't you?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. It's my first crack at it. I don't know. I'd like to think it was okay. We got a good producer. Apparently, he knows what he's doing. So we'll figure it out.
Well, he's the best in the business. But are we doing this weekly? I would assume.
Ideally.
Well, ideally, we're going to be back next week, and you can listen to us on Spotify right now, and we're probably going to get on the others very shortly. But yeah, check us out, Rise and Red, the podcast, the SFU Hockey Podcast, and we'll see you again real soon.
All right, guys.